All right. Hi, everyone, and welcome. I'm Kimberly Ingram Beck with the Nebraska chapter of the Computer Science Teachers Association. We're so glad you're here for this conversation on how Nebraska is working to support and scale computer science education statewide.
And I'm Shonna Dorsey with the Aksarben Foundation and the Nebraska Tech Collaborative and scholarships and internships. We have a lot going on over here. And today we're joined by our friends with the Department of Education, Dr. Katie Graham, Sean Young, and Sydney Kobza. Please correct me if I pronounced that incorrectly. Awesome. Welcome. And thank you for being here and for the work y'all are doing across the state. So we're going to get into our questions.
All right.
And I will kick us off. Okay, so Katie, can you start us off with the high-level overview of the Computer Science and Tech Education Act, or LB 1112, and what you're seeing so far?
Yeah, you bet. And thanks so much for having us. We're excited to be here and to share and take any questions everyone has. But LB 1112, which is now Nebraska Revised Statute 793301, or known as the Computer Science and Technology Education Act, it's really Nebraska's legislative commitment to ensuring all students are prepared with the digital and technology skills needed in and for the future workforce. It requires that all schools include computer science and technology instruction in their programming in elementary, middle, and high school, and that students complete at least the equivalent of one semester of computer science and technology education to graduate high school. So where are we? I guess a couple encouraging things. One I definitely want to mention is the Computer Science and Technology Education Fund. So last year, recognizing school districts need support to implement the new act, the legislature very generously appropriated $1 million this fiscal year and $1 million next fiscal year to create an expansion program, which provides all teachers, professional development opportunities, incentives for things like adding endorsements so they could teach computer science and technology courses, or completing different trainings so they can expand their offerings. And we're seeing really great momentum and a lot of creativity. Schools are incredible, and just seeing the recognition that this is more than just coding, or it's more than just keyboarding. It's really about preparing students to think critically and solve problems and engage with emerging technologies. AI is obviously everywhere, and do that in a responsible and really career relevant way. So really exciting to see what's happening.
Sean, as you look ahead, what are a few goals or areas your team is focused on, especially where you'd love to see more alignment or support?
Yeah, thanks, Kim. So far, we've had a lot of our focus on the graduation requirement because that's the part of the legislation that had the most specifics and requirements to it. So we really put our teeth into that a lot. And the next step, I think, would be focusing on those lower grade levels, and then kind of finding some North Star districts to kind of lead the way for the state, because there's not a lot of hard and fast requirements in the legislation around what elementary and middle school computer science and technology education needs to look like. But working towards that, I know the CSTA is revising their K-12 standards now, and those will be out next year. So that'll be a good reference point or framework to build off of when those are complete. At this point, they're over 8 years old, I believe. So it's kind of hard to point to those, especially with all the advances we've seen since then. But also recognizing that, especially at those lower grade levels, so when you're asking about support, there's gonna be need to probably invest some money into that to do it well. Just because teaching computer science and technology to first and second graders doesn't really look the same as in high school, where you can kind of plop an iPad or a laptop down in front of them. And from talking to people doing this work in other states and around the country, it seems those lower grade levels do a lot better when they have things that they can learn from, whether those are like the Sphero robots or B-bots or things like that, kind of physical devices, and just kind of working towards an alignment across the state of what are our best practices, what's the guidance around that, and what do we see working in other places that we can then bring into Nebraska instead of trying to reinvent the wheel.
Awesome. Yeah, that's exciting. So Katie, for leaders or sorry, no, Sydney is who was next. Sorry. What's the feedback from the field been like so far? Have you seen any bright spots or creative solutions emerging from schools or districts?
Yeah, so the feedback that I've heard or seen from the field have been very appreciative of the directions that they've been given, thinking about their now standards for the graduation requirement, and having resources that align directly to those standards so that they can ensure students have the opportunities to get these skills in computer science has been very much appreciated across the state. Katie had mentioned the fund. And we've been able to partner with CodeHS and really provide some high quality professional development for teachers across the state. And those trainings have been incredibly strong and really providing some high quality skill building and resources for our teachers. And so those are some really great bright spots. As far as creative solutions or emerging things from other school districts, I would rely on Sean to share any best practices or specific things from teachers directly, but I know there are some incredible things happening. We've asked some of those teachers to come and share at our NCE conference. And so just really, really appreciative of having that strategic direction with those standards and aligned resources.
That's awesome. We'll definitely want to plug that conference. If it's, I'm assuming it's still coming up. I hope so. Yes, awesome. Okay. And then I think, Kimberly, we should invite some teachers onto this webinar to talk about things you're working on.
I love that.
You guys can help us get connected with some folks. That would be great. Okay, great. So Katie, for leaders or admins just starting out, where's a helpful place to begin? I think I've heard a few things here, but where should they start?
Yeah, well, the NCE conference is a great place to start, June 9th through 12th. Online registration, I think, is closed, but you can register on site. Sydney, am I doing right? Okay, excellent. I think a great place to start, I was thinking about this question, is probably like in most areas, is just by taking inventory and really looking at what computer science and technology learning, is already existing in the district or building, and then figuring out where those gaps are. Sean mentioned elementary, some districts, that's actually where a lot of the instruction is already happening, in lower grades. And some are struggling at the upper grades, and in some districts, it's kind of flipped. So really just figuring out, where are your unique gaps, and where are the opportunities and places, you're already offering it. And then that really allows, especially at the, upper grades, allows district leaders to think through, where they can offer more advanced computer science and technology offerings, which has been, I know when the legislation was originally being written, that was part of the ultimate goal, was really to expand in some of the upper levels as well. So from there, certainly leveraging a ton of resources, of course, through our office and our incredible specialists. Also partners, there's so many incredible leaders in our state that are creating really creative solutions, to help districts and learners explore the worlds of work and, find where they fit and all the different skills that are needed. And of course, professional organizations like our great partners on the call, and of course, others. So Sean mentioned it as well, really connecting with other district leaders. We've seen such strong, peer-to-peer learning across the state, sharing what's working, I think is always a really strong place to start out. And then, of course, share once you figure it out.
That's wonderful. So Sean, we've heard a little bit about some of the support for teachers, but is there anything else that's happening to prepare educators to teach computer science, specifically those without a traditional tech background?
Yeah, we've been doing a lot. Starting off speaking about like the high school side, the graduation requirement stuff, because that's where a lot of the work's going, because this past year's freshman class, that's the first class that needs this in order to graduate in Nebraska. So we're in the thick of getting this graduation requirement stuff done. The first stop was honestly finding curriculum, because we had to create standards from nothing. And when you create new standards, the first obstacle you run into is there's no curriculum that's aligned to those standards, right? So when you have teachers that have never taught computer science, that now they're being tasked with it because in some cases, you're the one that knows how to do a PowerPoint. So you're the computer science teacher, right? In some of these schools. Being asked to do that and then not even having curriculum is tough. So we've done a lot of work partnering with curriculum providers. Now we have almost a half dozen full curricular offerings now that are directly aligned to our Nebraska CST standards. So that's the first bit of work. And then now, like Sydney kind of touched on, this professional development that Code HS is offering is really meant to kind of help those teachers out and help them feel more competent and then confident to stand in front of a classroom full of students and kind of teach this stuff, right? So it's one thing to get the content and one thing to get an understanding of it. But if we can help you to feel competent and confident teaching it, it's going to make the day so much less stressful. So that's the high school side of things. That's where we've been putting a lot of work into. And I think we got a lot of stuff offered now. There's something for everyone. And Code HS has been great. We have asynchronous online offerings that teachers can complete whenever they want. In-person offerings are going to be coming up all across the state, all the way out to the Panhandle to Omaha. And then hybrid stuff and a whole variety of other things. And not just like a single professional development course. It's things like, how do you build out a program in your school? How do you even, what is this stuff at the most base level, right? And then how do you teach advanced concepts and everything in between? So having curriculum and then training available for teachers that they can get paid to attend and complete, that's been the most beneficial thing we've been offering so far.
That's great. And this is not on the list. I'm so sorry. This happens sometimes, but I do have a question for y'all. Do you see many, much in the way of like peer-to-peer support from teachers? Like, are they partnering with each other where one may not be as skilled and someone is more skilled, things like that?
Oh yeah, we definitely have. We have a lot of great teachers. Kim, as a shout out, I don't know if we were just going to avoid talking about this. Kim's one of the greatest computer science teachers in Nebraska, right? And so we have people like Kim across the state, and we come together at things like the NCE conference or NETA or other events like that. And I see a lot of that of teachers meeting each other at our ESU professional development days in the fall. There's a lot of great opportunities, and we have a lot of great teachers that are not just preparing themselves, but then passing that knowledge onto each other. And it's been really fun to watch.
I love that. That's so key too. It just kind of helps build that community of teachers too. So I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, back to the structured list. I'm hilarious. Hold on, let me see where I'm at. Okay. I'm so lost. That's what I get for trying to go off script for 2 seconds. Sydney, for teachers who might be hesitant, what would you say to help them feel more confident and supported?
I would say taking advantage of those professional learning opportunities. One of the pieces that Sean had briefly touched on was Code HS is creating those community of practices within those professional learning opportunities as well. And so by being a part of those, you are learning from other teachers, but also making those connections across the state. And so I know it's been 8 years, but I was once in your shoes too, to all the budding computer science teachers out there. And a lot of these resources that are being provided are turnkey resources that you can take and be trained on and then present in your classroom. And so having those resources, but then also including that network, so that when questions do arise or when you may not remember how to properly instruct this component, you're able to reach out to those educators across the state and have those connections that are lifelong and as the field evolves and grows, so will computer science. And so that's exciting as well. I would also encourage you to reach out to our specialists across the state. You have Sean, who's on the call here. But Jackie Garrison, she serves as our communication and information systems specialist. She's another wonderful resource, and we're here to help provide those resources and those connections as well.
Awesome. So Katie, let's zoom out just a little bit. What are some ways that community members could get involved in, whether they're in the education, whether they're a business or advocacy? How can they plug in and support this effort at both the local and state level?
It's a great question. I think this is a fantastic opportunity for community members to engage. It's their involvement that's really essential, especially the business and industry leaders. One of the biggest ways to support is by helping schools connect computer science and technology learning to real world applications. That's really what the learners are craving anyways. So be it through classroom visits or work-based learning experiences or mentorships or donating equipment or expertise, it really makes learning tangible and inspires those students not only to see themselves in various careers, but using those skills in various careers. So advocates, local leaders, I think can just continue to spread awareness about the importance of computer science education, not just as a graduation requirement, but as a critical part of preparing students for the future workforce. Um, I think you mentioned post-secondaries. If not, I think they're a big part of this as well. Huge opportunity to continue, they're already doing such a phenomenal job, continue to partner on those advanced opportunities in high school, be it through dual credit or earning credentials, right there in high school. That signals not only additional skills and competencies, but potential ways to enter the workforce, in multiple pathways. So it's a collective effort. I think if everybody can really come together, the impact not only on students, but Nebraska's economy and future workforce can be pretty powerful.
Absolutely. And if I can just piggyback something on top of that, I was a transplant teacher as well. My initial certification was actually in music education. So coming over to computer science was a pretty big, weird leap. And so I have only ever known the education world. I've never been in the business world. So having community experts come in and help me fill in the gaps was huge. Because I don't know what it's like in a, traditional building. um, so I really appreciated that. So yes, community, I agree. Community is really great.
I love that. And so just a question now, I have additional new sub part B to this. But for employers or business partners who might say, I'm not sure how to get connected or how to plug into schools, how do they do that?
All started. I think there's so many different ways. We could all probably give one thing, but most basic is just call the school. Look online, find out who the business teacher is or the tech teacher, who the school counselor. Man, they know everything. So you could certainly start with them and just say, hey, say who you are and what you hope to do. I don't know, Sean, Sydney, Kim, any other thoughts?
Yeah, that's the way to do it, especially in the smaller districts. But I know a lot of our larger districts, they have outreach offices housed within the districts that try to work with their local business and industry partners to kind of bring them in. So yeah, if you're anywhere, especially if you're anywhere in Omaha or Lincoln, that should be a really easy in, reaching out to someone in the central office and seeing how you can get involved.
I would also encourage not just schools, but being involved with the career technical student organizations as well.
Yeah.
There's a lot of great examples of computer science happening in those competitions and a great pipeline for potential employees.
So true. That's awesome. Okay. So I know we talked about the upcoming conference, but are there any other upcoming opportunities or initiatives where cross-sector collaboration could really move the needle? This is for Sean, but open to anyone.
Yeah. There's always opportunities. And I always like trying to meet as many people in business and industry as I can, because as Katie kind of touched on, that's the purpose of what we're doing here, is trying to provide preparation for the workforce for these students. A really easy, like a layup, next year we're going to be revising standards. We're always asking for public input, and that's not just from educators. We like to get input from business and industry as well. We got a ton of input from business and industry when we created these initial computer science and technology standards for the graduation requirement. So looking forward to that next year as well, as they become revised. And then there's a million projects, right? I would love to do a million things here. And one I've been thinking about a lot lately is ag. Because we're in Nebraska. And looking at ag, we have a lot of classes that are outside of ag, but we put an ag tilt to them. Like we have ag business, we have ag welding, right? And so looking towards, we have some really great ag teachers that are also computer science teachers, and I'm trying to explore the ways maybe we can have like some type of ag computer science course to help meet the graduation requirement and what that might look like. Because when you look at agriculture nowadays, it's a lot different than it was 20 years ago with this precision farming that we have nowadays. Whether that's drones surveying fields to kind of figure out where nutrients are needed to kind of maximize output, or even I toured a dairy parlor and it was all robotics, right? They even had robots, like little Wally looking things on wheels that would mix feed and deliver it to cattle. And that's all stuff that's run on computers. That's designed by people that are working in computer science and technology space. So that's a big one. But I'm going to continue. We'll be continuing to ask for support, input, and just try to stay aligned to what the needs of business and industry are in Nebraska.
That's awesome. And I love that there are like, you know, the Combine, several like ag tech startups around the state that are doing great work. So
yeah,
definitely some great opportunities there.
Awesome. Well, before we move on to audience questions, Sydney, what's one thing that's giving you hope or momentum as we build towards a future-ready Nebraska?
Yeah, well, Sean kind of hit the nail on the head with updating our revised standards in the coming years and looking for these opportunities for some of those cross-cutting sectors with computer science and technology. But then also seeing both large and small districts really embrace computer science and those educators taking advantage of these opportunities. And so I think we've seen it statewide that there's interest and momentum, and that's really reassuring for the work that we do. So thank you.
Okay. Well, I asked folks to put any questions in the Q&A. I don't see any yet, but I am putting the link to the upcoming NCE conference in the chat. So feel free to check that out. Registration online, right?
It has closed, but you can register on site.
Okay, got it. On site at the event. Got it. Okay.
Yep.
And I can put the link for the Code HS PD that's paid
Awesome.
for Nebraska teachers in the chat here. I just got to pull it up real quick.
Excellent. Just so I'm clear, you said that the teachers get paid to do this professional development.
Incentivized.
Incentivized. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Perfect. Any final thoughts before we close out from Sean, Katie, Sydney, Kim, too?
Thank you guys for this opportunity. It's really great to connect, and that's where we get the most done is when we work together instead of just kind of staying siloed in our spaces. So I always appreciate these opportunities.
Yes, sincere thanks. Thanks for continuing to raise awareness and advocate for computer science and technology education. I just really appreciate it.
And thank you guys for your work. You guys are really trying to work and get as much as you can done on the political, not political end, but on the state end. So thank you so much for your guys' work.
Awesome. And then if you three have any thoughts on who else we should invite to the webinar, our goal really is to help prepare Nebraskans to be future ready, whether that's coming back on a specific topic or teachers we should talk to, community partners. Please feel free to let us know. We do this every month, so. All right. Thank you guys. Have a great rest of your day.
Yes, thank you guys. Thanks for having us.
Take care.